program are pre-recorded.
Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270, you're tuned to Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Bachel, along with Lori Hintz from Beck News. You can go to BeckTV.plus, follow all things Summit Carbon Solutions. Proposed CO2 pipeline. Good morning, Lori.
How you doing?
I'm good. I'm well. Thank you for
I am
asking.
Now awake. Thank you very much.
Oh, okay. I know you're not a morning person, but all those years in radio.
I know, right? I was a midday girl.
Well, yeah, but still, okay.
There's a reason
Never
for that.
Filled in on mornings?
No, I did mornings. I had done morning show. I did it. It wasn't pretty, but I managed it. And there's a reason it's radio too, folks.
There's a reason we're all on radio.
That's all true. Yeah.
Okay, so where do you want to start? Because there's a lot that's taken place.
Let's start at the local level. Because on December 4th, so that would have been last Wednesday, the Burleigh County put out a news release that says the Burleigh County Commission has unanimously agreed to appeal the November 15th, 2024 decision by the North Dakota Public Service Commission to approve the Summit Carbon Solutions permit for their pipeline route. The meeting was held this morning, so that would have been Wednesday the 4th, in an executive session to discuss possible litigation. The operative word in this sentence is unanimously. So that means all 5 commissioners agreed to appeal the decision and move forward with their lawyer. And the county commission has retained counsel on this, which is something that those people who are landowners within Burleigh County are so grateful for, because they know that is what their public servants are supposed to do, is protect them as landowners and protect their interests with their land. So that is very welcome to those people who are fighting.
Well, and in Burleigh County's case, it's the attorney that was retained was Randy Bakke, who has been at the beginning of all of this, counsel for former Bismarck Mayor Warford, but now counsel for the county in this regard. And then Emmons County is actually proceeding as well, and they've retained a different attorney.
Do they have like Derek Broughton or somebody else?
Yeah, somebody like that.
The county has to file its appeal to the decision in court by December 15th, according to a Bismarck Tribune article. That's what they have in there. And the appeal follows another lawsuit in North Dakota. As you mentioned, Emmons County filed a challenge against the PSC's decision over the authority of the local ordinances as well. And Summit has argued that the ordinances make it impossible to build the line through Burleigh and Emmons counties. Yeah, likely. County governments maintain there are still potential routes. Could they not skirt around those counties and be a little further away from some populations areas? I think that is entirely possible. County governments maintain there are, a couple of different places that they can still go, but the court has been on hold, though it is expected to resume now that the PSC has made a decision. So there's fits and starts with this as it goes on. The county commission has had some contentious relationships with Summit since 2022, but to me, I'm curious about the contentious relationship as is stated in this Bismarck Tribune article, simply because they haven't showed up.
No.
So what kind of relationship do you have with somebody if they don't even...
There isn't one. And I'll put my county commission hat on for a second. There isn't one. And I ask every week, or every
other week.
Every other week. It's like, where, is somebody here? Because I would like them to show up. It's like, have a dialogue. And that's part of the problem. It's like they keep saying that, we're at everything that's important, every planning and zoning and well, they haven't been to any of ours. And I doubt that they're at some of these other ones they're saying at, just because if it's important, why aren't you at them? And when they won't even sit down with DAPL and have a conversation and negotiation with DAPL, who they have to cross some 40 plus times.
Right.
And DAPL has concerns, and DAPL's biggest concern is they've got a lot of questions that aren't being answered because they won't sit down with them.
Yep.
They won't meet with them.
And why? Why is that? What is the purpose
of
why is it that you would not want to engage when yet you say publicly that you are engaging with all these counties?
Well, go back in the track record, because they're not engaging with landowners that they're I view as trespassing. They're not engaging with other companies that are being affected. They're not engaging with other municipalities that are being affected.
Their words and their actions do not match.
Not even close.
And the interesting thing is when Summit initially proposed their route that would have been about 2 miles north and 3 miles east of Bismarck's ETA, which is the extraterrestrial area, the county commission.
That's where ET landed.
Yeah,
extraterritorial.
Phone home.
Yeah.
We are so old. Still, the county commission has regularly voiced concerns about this, and you guys in the Burleigh County Commission particularly have had people come to meeting after meeting and come before you. So you are being responsive absolutely to the public who is in your county, in your jurisdiction, and those concerns over potential safety issues.
Well, for me, that's where it starts. Mm-hmm. And the landowner rights and landowner autonomy, it's a huge part of it. But for me as an elected official, where everything starts and ends is public safety. Mm-hmm. And we do not have any of the information that is needed to be able to provide what we are tasked to do as elected officials, and that's provide public safety.
Correct.
And for me, it's fire, police, water, roads,
EMS.
sewer, all public safety issues.
Yep.
We can't perform those duties, which is, to me, the primary duty, mm-hmm. with no input from what potentially could be in our community.
And this is not like it's an isolated thing. This is not the only county where this is going on. This is not the only county in North Dakota where this is going on. So because you've got Burleigh and Emmons counties. And this is not the only state with multiple tens of 20s of different counties who are going through exactly the same thing at the same time. And that in and of itself, there's 4 other states where this project is going on. There's 4 other states. We're talking South Dakota, Iowa, Minnesota, Nebraska. Those states all have counties where they are going through the exact same conversation.
Now, I view Nebraska as kind of a neutral.
It's an outlier.
It's an outlier because
a little different.
It's just a little
Their
bit.
situation is
they don't have a public service commission, or
they don't have a body even
yeah.
governing it. So
there is no governing body for that. So it's kind of a little bit of the wild, wild west. And I haven't heard a lot from private landowners that have maybe raised some concerns down there, because who do they speak to?
Exactly. They don't even have any recourse. They literally have nobody to.
So when you're looking at what the recourse is from a landowner's perspective to their elected officials, that puts even more weight on township, county, state elected officials, representatives in a state like Nebraska. That's because I couldn't imagine not having that. Although maybe one less layer of bureaucracy
might be better.
Sometimes is a
hard
good
to
thing.
say. Hard to say.
So
either way, yes.
Hold that thought.
You
Burleigh Emmons County.
Mm-hmm.
We'll come back to that. This is Talk of the Town with Lori Hintz from Beck News on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 12. Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270, you're tuned to Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Bach, along with Lori Hintz from Beck News. You can go to BeckTV.plus, follow all things Southern Carbon Solutions proposed CO2 pipeline and all other kinds of investigative reporting. And, one of the things with Burleigh and Emmons County, of course, there's actually some mainstream media locally starting to pay attention.
I am really encouraged by that.
Yeah.
The Tribune has done their due diligence on this one and did the story the day that it came out, and so did KFYR television. And so good for them. KFYR TV says Michael Anhalt wrote this article on the 4th, and he says the Burleigh County Commission met for an executive session, just as we mentioned in the earlier segment there, agreed to appeal a decision made by the Public Service Commission to approve a permit for the Summit Carbon Solutions CO2 pipeline route. And County Commissioner Wayne Munson said the PSC disregarded Burleigh County's efforts to establish ordinances to keep the pipeline at least 10 miles away from Bismarck city limits and to move the route to 1 to 4 miles away from county schools, homes, public recreation areas, and other occupied structures, depending on the classification. Quote, the PSC ruled that our ordinances don't need to be enforced. They are bypassing all of the work that we did to protect our residents, which is why we've decided to take this action against the PSC, said Burleigh County Commissioner Wayne Munson. And good on him. That was a really good way of wording it, because they literally on that higher level rather than bottom up, have top down come down on the county and said, no, we're preempting what you're doing. Commissioner Munson told KFYR that he and the other commissioners are in lockstep regarding the safety of Burleigh County residents.
There's another component to that, too, because if you're going to preclude all the zoning ordinances, well, there's fees that go along with that, and that goes back into the public safety side of things. So now you're hamstringing counties, and Burleigh being one of them, Emmons another, from collecting those fees, which go towards public safety when we don't even know what the cost of that public safety is because nobody will show up.
That's the really...
And they won't release...
That's the really interesting thing is that we have heard this lip service multiple times about how they're going to give each county X amount of dollars. And setting a large amount of money like that is useless if you're... if you're not knowing where it's going. I mean, they literally haven't made it clear how expensive it would be to have, for instance, a fire truck that is an electric vehicle, because that would be required.
Funny because the city of Minneapolis just got their first electric fire truck.
Let me guess.
And I'm really curious to
winter.
See. Yeah. Going into winter, they got their first electric fire truck. Yeah. And the mayor in Minneapolis is touted as, it's more compact and they can get into more space. I'm like, okay, first of all, and I'm thinking from a financial perspective, what does that thing weigh, for one?
Right.
Because the number one thing that rips up roads more than anything are garbage trucks, and I'm guessing it probably weighs more than a garbage truck. Mm-hmm. So all of that infrastructure. Can you
imagine the battery power it would take to run a fire truck?
Well, that's the weight.
I mean, I can't even imagine.
Yeah, and for how long?
Right.
I mean,
you can get there, but you can't get back.
Are they going to have fire hydrants and plug-ins next to each other?
Yeah.
I don't know how that's going to work, but yeah, going into winter, they got their first. But oh my gosh, the numbers behind that thing, it was expensive. But that's what you're going to need for public safety, and very robustly to be able to provide public safety, because regular engines, internal combustion engines, don't work.
Exactly.
If there's
and I don't know that the general public actually realizes or understands that, because what you need to understand about CO2 that is, if it is released from a pipeline, it would be 20 miles between individual valves. First of all, the valves would be above ground. You would have to... That
volume in that 20 miles is what's going to leak, and they have to let it leak out. They have to.
Right.
And I've talked to a lot of people...
Even if you shut the valve down immediately, you've still got that volume from that whole 20 miles at 2183 PSIG.
Yeah.
Which, and I can
24 inches.
And I can just spew those words out, but to somebody who can't visualize what that means, that is an intense amount of supercritical CO2 that comes out that is 1.5 times heavier than air, which means it settles.
The number of people I've talked to that don't understand, it'll just dissipate. No,
it doesn't just go up in the air.
It's heavier than air.
Right.
And the way I usually try to explain it, minus the green color, is we're in the season, 10 Commandments.
The fog, the mist.
The angel of death.
And the mist
the green
goes through,
mist.
right.
I'm not exaggerating. That's what it would be like.
Yep. There have been studies done. There have been simulations.
And it's all going to run downhill because it's going to the low spot.
Correct. Well, where's our low area? Oh, that'd be the river, right near where all the people are. I mean, literally, it would move from the higher ground to the lower ground. So, people can say, oh, doom and gloom is, not in my backyard because well, the truth of the matter is that when you do the investigation, you realize what could possibly happen. The Burleigh County Commissioners, the Emmons County Commissioners are interested in saving the lives of their constituents. That is the bottom line. And it's not hard to see once you actually see a model, once you see a plume model.
And that includes the residents of the city of Bismarck who have an opportunity or had an opportunity because they're an intervener and haven't done anything to protect its citizens. And I have some serious concerns over that, but fortunately Bismarck is in Burleigh County, so we get to do that job.
Yep. get to serve.
Yeah.
Now, do you want to stay on this subject, or do you want to make a little detour? Because I kind of want to ask what you think about the whole TC Energy Project Tundra.
Well, let's stay a little local. We got about a minute and a half before the break. So
that is an interesting thing to me, and I only bring it up because I'm super curious to see why that would have occurred. And maybe I'm just a curious person who's always wondering the whys of it. If something happens and something occurs, I want to look back and go, okay, that's interesting. Why would that have happened? And this week, on the 3rd of December, TC Energy, a major partner in a huge carbon capture project proposed for North Dakota's coal country, discontinued its involvement in the effort. This is according to a Bismarck Tribune story by Joy Harris. Final construction decision on the $2 billion Project Tundra is also further delayed. And Politico first reported this story on Monday, which is interesting that they went national with the story first and then came a little closer.
Because, all right, and think of this, very quietly in North Dakota, that project, they removed themselves from that project.
Right.
What have you heard the last 4 years from local legislators? Project Tundra, Project Tundra, Project Tundra,
right.
Project Tundra.
Right.
We are so involved in this cutting edge. Okay.
Right.
So first of all, there's a credibility issue for one, but second of all, did you know it was a possible scam when you spent all of our tax dollars on it? I question that.
It's just very curious to me that came out and that it was, again, like you say, it was followed on a national level, but not necessarily on a local level. And yet, why? Is somebody reading tea leaves and going, okay, this is just not going to be profitable because we've got a new administration? The timing of it makes me curious.
Timing matters. Timing is everything.
Indeed.
We're talking with Lori Hintz from Beck News. This is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Follow us on Facebook. Super Talk 1270. Welcome back to Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270, you're tuned to Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Bachman and Lori Hintz from Beck News. You can go to BeckTV.plus. Follow all things Summit Carbon Solutions proposed CO2 pipeline. Of course, the big news is Emmons and Burleigh County are appealing the Public Service Commission's ruling of giving them their permit. Now, there's a lot of other things that Summit has to try to jump through hoops and check boxes in correlation with that, but that does open the door for them to be able to do those calisthenics. They've reapplied in South Dakota, so they're still working on moving forward with this project, but we're starting to hear some national voices chime in on what a lot of us have considered a carbon scam.
Mm-hmm.
So we're starting to get some people chiming in because of the change in what could be federal policy.
So Donald Trump's pick, this is from Desmog, from Jeff Dembicki, from the last part of November. He put out an article about Chris Wright after Chris Wright was chosen. Donald Trump's pick to lead the DOE, Department of Energy. Chris Wright is receiving...
Former CEO of Liberty.
Right. He's receiving enthusiastic approval from a climate obstruction organization that argues global carbon dioxide emissions should be increasing because the gas is essential for life. And, quote, this is from Gregory Wrightstone. I had a chance to sit down one-on-one with Chris in 2022 in his Denver office, claimed Gregory Wrightstone, executive director of a group called the CO2 Coalition. And Wrightstone, who detailed the encounter with Wright in a recent newsletter, said he was, quote, impressed with his knowledge and views on energy philosophy, which align closely with those of the CO2 Coalition. In a phone interview with Desmog, Wrightstone elaborated on that alignment, explaining that the main thing that he and I and the CO2 Coalition agree on is that increasing CO2 is a net benefit. It's not the demon molecule, it's the miracle molecule. So that was interesting to read.
It's carbon. It's a building block, right? Essential for life.
Meanwhile, you've got...
I do find it funny, though, because you've got this push for over a decade for decarbonization and lowering levels of CO2. And now you've got an organization that's wanting to increase levels of CO2. Has anybody stopped and gone, wait a minute, it seems to be working right now where it's at?
Exactly.
Don't raise it, don't lower it.
So
I kind of like where it's at because I'm good right now.
A second article that came out actually right before the one that I talked about, maybe a week before that, also from Bismarck, from that same writer, says Chris Wright has called the concept of carbon pollution, quote, outrageous, and says that the influential climate crisis denier Bjorn Lomborg is a friend. He's an outspoken advocate for fossil fuels who frequently claims that fears about global temperature rise are overblown, calling this a, quote, false and dishonest narrative. So that is fascinating to read about. And Chris Wright, I have heard very, very good things about from multiple people, but he is set to head the Department of Energy and will be then on that national committee, the working group with our governor, who will then be interior.
I'm a huge fan of Chris Wright. Got to know him when he was with Liberty. Some different speaking engagements, some things that I moderated and hosted over the years. And Chris is legit. I don't think there could have been a better energy secretary pick. One of the funny things though, it's like, are you familiar? Because I'm always politically, ecology, whatever it is, things work when they're balanced.
Yes.
Equilibrium. Are you familiar with Lavoisier's law?
No.
It's conservation of mass.
Okay.
So we only have so much mass, but it changes form all the time because it goes through cycles. Goes through a life cycle, if you will.
That makes perfect sense.
Carbon is one of
Everything
them.
is cyclical.
Energy,
it goes
carbon.
up through into the atmosphere. It comes down and helps food for plants. So, yeah, it makes perfect sense.
Of mass.
Sure.
And things change.
And that's okay. It's supposed to do that.
Okay.
It's supposed to do that.
Yes. There's global warming. There's global cooling. We go through cycles.
Mm-hmm.
And
everything is cyclical.
Yes.
Think about it. I mean, everything is.
Even those bell bottoms you wore in the 70s.
Ouch,
they're coming back, right?
It's all true. Wearing them again. He's not wrong. He's not wrong. It was also late November as these people were being named for the nominees were coming out from Trump's administration. President-elect, this is from a Fox Business article that came out the last week of November as well, and it said, President-elect Trump's nominee to serve as Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, has touted a 3-3-3 economic plan that would seek to reduce budget deficits while boosting growth and energy production. And this is what they are saying from Fox Business. They say his 3-3-3 plan this summer, he put it out at an event hosted by the Manhattan Institute, and he said it would involve cutting the budget deficit to 3% of gross domestic product. It would mean boosting GDP growth 3% through deregulation and pro-growth policies. And the third 3 is increasing U.S. energy production to the equivalent of an additional 3 million barrels of oil per day. That's his 3-3-3 plan. I thought that was fascinating to hear because he doesn't say anything about carbon credits or anything like that. Hedge fund manager Scott Bessent, who, Trump tapped for that position.
Why that matters, and you take a look at, this is where you have to step back and look at global politics. Look what's going on over between Russia and Ukraine. Why? Because Russia got an influx of cash because of energy when the Biden administration cut ours off. Iran, influx of cash, couple influx of cashes. One was energy and one was, don't ask me what the money was for, but again, an influx of cash.
Right.
Money is power.
Yes.
And going back into an administration that realizes that energy produces money, which is power on a global scale, is awfully refreshing when you start talking about America first.
Exactly. Now, an additional article, this was from E&E News. Jason Ploutz put this out the same day on the 25th of November. He says hedge fund manager Scott Bessent, whom Trump tapped for the position Friday, has called the Inflation Reduction Act a, quote, doomsday machine for the budget. end quote. That aligns him with Trump, who has pledged to rescind unspent money from a law he calls the greatest scam in history. As Treasury Secretary, Bissett would be able to rewrite or reverse some of the law's valuable tax provisions, which were designed to boost renewable energy and other emerging technologies like hydrogen, carbon capture, and electric vehicles. Cutting those tax credits could offer a political win to conservatives who say the Biden administration is skewing prices in the energy market. It could also offset some of the cost of extending the $1 million tax cuts Trump implemented in 2017 and which are set to expire next year. So the scent is in that way. And then I've got one little thing from Elon Musk. I'll save it for you.
To Elon, because it's going to tie into Doge a little bit here as well. We're talking with Lori Hintz from Beck News. This is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk. Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270, you're tuned to Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Bachel. I'm with Lori Hintz from Beck News. You can go to becktv.plus, follow all things Summit Carbon Solutions, proposed CO2 pipeline. And, when the government says they're here to help, what could go wrong, Lori?
I'm here to help.
Yeah, hey, yes, we're here to help. It's like, so, from our last segment, my big takeaway on that, and I will always profess this, is when you're subsidizing and creating an artificial market for profit, you're taking the private sector out of the innovation market.
Right.
And when you do that, there is no incentive to improve things or invent things or innovate. And the government's not going to do it. So who is? That doesn't end well.
No. We have a new sheriff in town with this new administration set to take. The administration will be taking over January 20th at 12 noon. And what's interesting is this is the most planning in advance I have ever seen from an administration. Literally on the moment of the oath, things are going to change rapidly for the country. And
just internationally on the global
it's already
stage,
started.
It's already started.
Absolutely begun. No question.
One of my favorite things I heard out of President-elect Trump's mouth was those countries that were working to destabilize the U.S. currency as international currency, knock it off.
Yep.
Knock it off. Or else.
Yep.
And Trump's got an or else.
Yeah. I remember hearing one time that the leaders from foreign countries viewed him as crazy and volatile and unpredictable, and that's why they respect him, because they never know what he's going to necessarily do.
And yet
they still know what he's going to do.
Yeah.
So the advent of, in this Advent season, the advent of Doge, DOGE, which is, Doge is, for those of you who have not yet heard, the Department of Governmental Efficiency, which is being established as a temporary.
An oxymoron.
I know, right? Think about it for a moment. And the funniest part is that it uses two people as their head. That's hysterical. The irony of that is hysterical, because rather than just one person, there's two people. It is Elon Musk and it is Vivek Ramaswamy, and the two of them. Elon Musk is so fascinating. He's been on Capitol Hill. He's been kind of hanging out in a villa at Mar-a-Lago, and it's like he's like a bad rash that he can't get rid of him.
Well, the first place they're starting is getting government workers back to work, because according to
6%,
and
6% are in offices, and the other 94% are working from home. So,
on a full-time basis.
Wow.
Okay,
that was shocking when we heard that.
I watched a statistic last night that if you eliminate of that 6%, those that are maintenance and janitorial and those
security people who are actually working there,
it's 1%.
Yeah, I know, right? So here's the deal. This is an E&E News story that came out on the 5th of December. by Andres Picon, and I'm going to read one little quote from this, just a little portion of it, not the whole article, but it says, in response to a question about whether he would want to get rid of the $7,500 tax credit, the $7,500 tax credit for certain electric vehicle purchases that Democrats passed as part of their 2022 climate law, Musk said, quote, I think we should get rid of all credits. Now, this is interesting if you know Elon Musk's background, because he
kind of has that little electric car company.
A little electric car company called Tesla. He also, has
that probably sells a lot of vehicles.
He has the social media platform X, but that sounds like somebody who would be shooting himself financially in the foot, does it not? I think we should get rid of all tax credits, Musk said. Now that should strike fear into the hearts of those people relying on those tax credits for carbon credits.
Well,
should it not?
It should, but what it tells me is maybe we should let the free market decide.
He has really come around.
Yeah.
He has been amazing with the free speech available on X. He has been amazing with his words that he has used in favor of letting free speech and the free market reign. He is also a visionary, and I'm just very impressed with that one little sentence. I think we should get rid of all credits. And I can't say I disagree.
And again, that comes back to
that's personal opinion.
You're taking the private sector out of the business of generating profit.
Right.
And that means innovating.
One other big thing that happened just really quick this week was Wolf Carbon Solutions withdrew their CO2 pipeline project application at the Iowa Utilities Commission, which affects Iowa, Illinois, and people in Iowa and Illinois are rejoicing. They apparently saw something coming up that did not look good to them and realized that
maybe it's the PHMSA rules finally coming out, but you've stumbled across something with a bunch of senators.
Okay, so I went back and looked at an article.
Or not just senators.
No, these are House members. This is our representatives in the U.S. House. So on August 6, 2024, 18 members of the Republican House caucus, or their conference, they call it the House Republican Conference, wrote a letter to Speaker Mike Johnson. So August 6th, you can look it up, you can find it, and he's in it. They say, we urge you to prioritize business and market certainty as you consider efforts that repeal or reform the Inflation Reduction Act, which is the one that gives us the 45Q tax credits. And they say in this letter to Johnson, we agree the partisan process of passing the IRA created a deeply flawed bill. That's their first sentence. That will prevent the development of life-saving cures, empower the IRS to harass small businesses, and distort energy markets. But then they go on to say, however, prematurely repealing energy tax credits, particularly those which were used to justify investments that already broke ground, would undermine private investments and stop development that is already ongoing. A full repeal would create a worst-case scenario where we would have spent billions of taxpayer dollars and received next to nothing in return.
As opposed to continuing to spend billions of taxpayer dollars and still receiving nothing in return.
Correct. Energy tax credits, it says, have spurred innovation, incentivized investment, and created good jobs in many parts of the country, including many districts represented by members of our conference, i.e. meaning these people, the signers.
Innovation is not making crap up and going, hey, give us money for it.
As Republicans, we support an all-of-the-above approach to energy development and tax credits that incentivize domestic production, innovation, and delivery from all sources. So I was like, okay, who wrote this? I want to know who are the people who wrote this. So I went and I looked up who those 18 people were and from what states they were. I'm going to read what states they come from. New York, California, Oregon, New York, Indiana, New York, Virginia, New York, California, Utah, Don Bacon from Nebraska, New Jersey, Ohio, Miller Meeks from Iowa, Siscomani from Arizona, Georgia, and Nevada. Do you hear very many blue states in there or red states in that
list? A lot
of
blue states.
Isn't that fascinating?
what I would call rhinos.
I
was connected politically
to the lobby. So that was fascinating once I looked up who the actual people were, and that's what you need to do.
Tell you what, we're up against the clock, and save that for next week because I want to come back and touch on that a little bit more because there's more in there and there's more happening coming up from an administrative position.
At what point are we ever going to hear from PHMSA? The year is almost concluded.
Yeah, well, now I'm hearing maybe 26. So,
oh, no.
25, 26. So, Lori, as always, a pleasure. You can go to Beck and find out all sorts of investigative reporting.
BeckTV.plus and download our app, and you can watch and stream things and look at them whenever on demand.
This is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Talk of the Town, weekday mornings starting at 9 on Super Talk 1270 and the free Super Talk 1270 mobile app. Talk Bismarck and Mandan. Super Talk 1270.
Portions of the following program are pre-recorded.
Welcome back to Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270, you're tuned to Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Bakken. Joining us in the studio, Rebecca Binstock with the Ethics Commission. And a lot of talk about ethics with what's coming up with the next session. And it's always a conversation because really the Ethics Commission is something newer in North Dakota. And Rebecca, why don't you give our listeners a little bit of a background for the Ethics Commission? And then I want to get into why it's important, that educational piece now, because it's about education. I mean, people don't know if they're doing something ethically wrong with the way the statutes, as you've got new legislatures coming in. And we do have a lot of turnover now with term limits. So it's about an educational process. And I want to get into that, but a little background on the Ethics Commission.
Perfect. Well, good morning, Steve. Thanks for having me. So let's talk about the Ethics Commission in general. So the North Dakota Ethics Commission was formed from an initiated measure, right? We had an initiated measure back in 2018. It was on the ballot. The voters passed it. They approved it. It became effective in 2019. Then we had, in 2019, we had 5 commissioners that were appointed. So the individuals who serve on the Ethics Commission are appointed by a consensus agreement, a little bit unique, not majority, consensus agreement of the governor, Senate Majority Leader, and Senate Minority Leader. So we have 5 commissioners that are appointed in 2019, and then they get to start doing their work, right?
So a little background, when the initiated measure fired up, I mean, because it's kind of something you take for granted a little bit. It's like, well, why do we need an ethics commission? Because it's North Dakota. Shouldn't we be ethical to begin with?
We should be ethical to begin with. Yes, absolutely.
But it was, some of it was some of the lobbying pieces, and people were having concerns that, is the legislator, because you got to remember this is back before term limits, and was it a club, or are we getting the best value? Were people doing things that they just don't know about, and that's where the education piece comes in. But you got to have an ethics commission to be able to do that education.
Right. So I think back, if you look before the initiated measure, there was a lot of we don't know. Right?
Yeah.
We don't have,
gray area.
we don't have, and we didn't have information, right? We didn't have a way to disclose stuff. There wasn't a way to process certain complaints or certain issues, right? So there was a lot of, I think, unknown. And then whenever you have unknown, it creates uncertainty and questions, and then you start asking a lot of questions, right? And then you did have things that were popping up in the media, that were problems. And so then you can then, people would take those and then run with it, let's say, right? So with the Ethics Commission coming into place, let's fast forward. So what did the voters put it into place? What does it actually do, right?
It's about setting up standards and rules so people, and it doesn't matter what industry you're in, if you're in politics, if you don't know the rules of the game, then there's an opportunity to blur some lines, whether intentional or not.
Whether intentional or not.
And that is the education piece of the Ethics Commission, because it's there's no gray area. You know where the line is and you don't cross it.
Yep. So that is really what the Ethics Commission is all about, right? Is providing that education. So we do have an investigative arm, right, where we can investigate things that come into our office. But primarily what we want to focus on is preventing issues and making sure that people have the information ahead of time so that they can make more ethical, better decisions, right?
Make sure they're educated so that it's, am I getting a cup of coffee from somebody I shouldn't be getting a cup of coffee?
Right. Or something else. Am I voting on something that I should be voting on? Is it okay that I take this action, right? And so, before we had the Ethics Commission and even before recently, the educational component, there was not a lot of education for state public officials, legislators. So as the Ethics Commission really came into its own, we want to talk about and provide educational resources. So that can be done, and we do it through a variety of ways. So the very first thing that we have is we do webinars. We talk about, we have educational sessions that are an hour-long discussion on a topic, okay? So that is one of the first things that we put out. You can listen to those on our website. Those are available to everybody. So the other thing that we've done is we've made information hopefully accessible, meaning that you can access it if you need it.
Well, there's kind of three components to this. So, and we're talking about the legislature coming into session now.
Yes, legislature's coming into session.
The legislators being able to go, okay, I have a question, and being able to go and look at those guidelines. But the media as well to know, if you're going to go chase a story down, was something ethical? Is there a violation there or not?
Yep.
And then the public, because it's about the constituents, and having that knowledge as a voter and a constituent and a taxpayer and resident of North Dakota is very valuable too, because I'm a big proponent. People should be doing their homework, and there's some accountability, and you should know what is right and wrong, especially today with social media, because good Lord, something can get off the rails in a hurry because it's rumor and conjecture and it's not factual and stuff can go in different directions because of social media today. So having the ability to know all the information, and as the Ethics Commission has really turned into an educational resource, I like the direction you guys are going.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of trepidation when the Ethics Commission first was created.
Yeah, they were concerned, a lot of individuals were concerned that it would be this gotcha kind of entity, that it could be politically weaponized, that sort of thing.
Correct.
And that's still, we have to address some of those concerns and some of those issues on the investigation side. But it really comes down to providing information to the stakeholders, like you talked about, the public, the media, public officials, right? And how we do that really comes down to what, especially as we are moving into legislative session, right? That we are pushing forward with that. So, also keep in mind, that as we are doing education, so just to kind of give you an idea, so far this fall, right, we are currently in the organizational session, right? Organizational session is here right now. And so we've been doing education specifically with legislators. So that's been our focus for the last few days. Let's give them the information that they need to know, best practices, and let's not do it in a big auditorium, bring them all in. We want to have one-on-one conversations. We want to have small groups. So we've been doing that. We also provide a lot of information to them ahead of time so that they know. And also that quick guidance, right? Informal guidance, like, hey, should I be doing this? Should I not be doing this?
Where's my crib notes?
Yeah, where's my notes? What do I need to do? So we've tried to create kind of workable things because they're not legislators, 100% of the time, right? Or they're new. So we try to provide them with those resources.
And as a quote unquote citizen legislature, which I'll debate at times, but you do have people working in the private sector and doing other things, and there is an opportunity, whether intentional or not, for the private side to bleed into the legislative side, and they need to know that.
Yes, yeah. And I think that a lot of individuals who serve in the legislature that have that are aware of that, and that's one of the things that we're talking about.
We're talking with Rebecca Minstock with the North Dakota Ethics Commission. This is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk. Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270, you're tuned to Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Bach along with Rebecca Binstock with the North Dakota Ethics Commission. We're talking about ethics, new session coming in, a lot of new legislators coming in after the first of the year with the session, and a lot to know, a lot to learn for them, for the media, for the public when it comes to ethics. One of the questions I've been asked fairly recently is if somebody were to have an ethics question or think there's a violation, what's the process of who do I report this to? Who do I talk to? Do you just call up the North Dakota Ethics Commission, go, hey, I have a concern. Does this fit the criteria? Is it as simple as that, or what's the process?
Yeah, great question, Steve. You know what? It is as simple as that. So the Ethics Commission can take a complaint in from a North Dakota resident in really any form. It can be a phone call. There is a hotline that people can submit tips through. That number is available on our website. There's also a form, an online form that somebody can submit through our website as well. We've made that pretty user-friendly so that you can attach documents if you need to, submit information. Or if you're not sure, you can just call and ask us. So we have staff available. The Ethics Commission doesn't have jurisdiction or authority over local officials. That's probably one of the questions we get the most frequently.
Yeah, where's the bottom end? Where's the line?
You know, who do you guys investigate, alleged violations against? And so we
it's
don't.
The state level.
And it's state level. So it is state level. So
okay,
we
but
do have
casting
that.
the net statewide, then that could go into higher education, that could go into legislators, that could be Commerce Department, any state agency, that's under your jurisdiction.
So there's some exceptions. So it's going to be, the definition or the word is public officials, anybody who's a public official. So this is going to be anybody who's elected, right? This is going to be our legislators, our statewide elected individuals, anybody in the executive branch who's appointed. So that's going to include cabinet members and then individuals who serve in the executive branch who are appointed, right? So there's certain individuals such as myself. I'm not in the executive branch. We're in this independent ethics commission, but I'm appointed to serve in my role, right? So it also is going to include individuals who serve on the ethics commission. They included themselves within that. They have to follow the rules. And then it's going to include legislative employees. So there are general executive branch employees who are serving in the state. They are going to be excluded. So it is limited to the number of people. Or the individuals. So, but let's say that somebody does have a complaint or a question. They're not quite sure. They can come to us. They can talk to us about it. If they do want to move ahead and file a complaint with the commission, it really is, it's a 3-step process. And it requires us to initially review something once it comes in and say, hey, can we even be looking at this? Is this something?
Step one is you're required to If somebody has a question, you're required to assess that. Yep. And I can imagine a lot of cases because of lack of education.
Yep.
People go, hey, I think there's something here, a violation. And when you go through it, it's like, that doesn't meet the criteria.
Right. We do a lot of that.
Right. Mm-hmm. And so, again, up front, diffusing what could have been something that was blown out of proportion and not accurate, because it's about being accurate and having the right information. So,
it is, yes. Yeah, so we can do that right away. We can handle things that aren't within our jurisdiction. We can get rid of them pretty quickly. Then we are left with moving toward, so we review it. We say, yep, this is something that the Ethics Commission can look into. No, it's not. If it isn't something the Ethics Commission can look into, there might be another local entity or a county commission, city commission that something should go to. And we do, let people know who come to us.
So getting things to the right place is very important,
too. Part of it is getting things to the right place. Now, we can't provide them legal advice, but we can certainly say, hey, maybe talk to this person. Let's go there. The second step is trying to informally resolve anything that happens. So we're required under the statute to try to informally resolve. What we have learned over the course of the last 4 years in dealing with this is that is not the easiest process, because you have a complainant who is concerned and may see something that they don't like, and it's hard to get that done. We have been successful on a few occasions, but then at that point, if we can't resolve something, then we move into more of an investigation stage, right? Where we are fact gathering, where we are interviewing people, we're taking depositions, we're moving towards that so then we can create a report. Now, I will tell you that the commission is actually looking to change this process just a little bit to get away from some of the negative connotation, because there is an education component even in that process, that somebody could have done something that they didn't even realize they shouldn't have done really early on, and they would have been able to correct it and say, hey, if I would have known that, I wouldn't have done it. So we're trying to actually...
Kind of a remediation process.
Yes, absolutely. We're trying to build in that education into this process. So expect some changes in the coming session for how that process looks in an effort to almost streamline it.
So when you're looking at a complaint coming in, it's first of all, is it a complaint? Mm-hmm. Second of all, is it going in the right place that it needs to go to?
Yep.
And then the third part is, okay, there's something here and there's an investigation that takes place now.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's correct.
So what does an investigation look like?
Yep. So an investigation is going to look very similar to a civil case, right? Where we gather documents from places, whether it is private citizens, whether it is other state agencies. We're going to be conducting interviews with people. We're going to be requesting records, those sorts of things, asking questions of people so that we can then get a full picture of what happened. Sometimes that can be pretty short, right? Something happened, very direct, involves few people. Sometimes that's bigger. And so then at the end, as executive director, I produce a report that the commission and the individual who we are, investigating, I don't want to use that kind of negative connotation, but that is in this process, that they are both provided. And so then from there, the commission decides if that is an ethical violation or if it is not an ethical violation.
And, okay, we know what happens if it's not. What happens if it is?
What happens if it is? So there are certain circumstances where there's fines or penalties that are associated with those, and that's laid out. Some of the other things is if there is an ethical violation, the fact that there is an ethical violation, is in fact the consequence, right? That there is now a public finding out there that something shouldn't have happened, right?
And an ethical violation can reach different levels as well, because it's like, did somebody take a cup of coffee from somebody they shouldn't have, or is it more intensive than that? So I can imagine there's a great big spectrum.
There is. Yeah. So there is a spectrum. And then the other thing is that the commission can actually refer its findings to another state entity once it's done. So if it needs to hand it over to, the Secretary of State to do some auditing, or to a county commission, or, I can't imagine a time when that would come up, but another state entity.
Yeah, it really could.
It could.
Rebecca Binstock, Executive Director of North Dakota Ethics Commission. This is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
The Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270, you're tuned to Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Bach, along with Rebecca Binstock, Executive Director of North Dakota Ethics Commission. And we're talking about education with the session coming in. There's a couple different components of that, having the legislators and state elected office holders being educated on the ethics rules, because whether intended or not, it's important that they know what the guidelines for having good ethics in the legislature or your office are. But there's some other components to that too. It's the media, it's the public, the constituents knowing what an ethics violation is, because in today's day and age, not being educated on something, you run the risk of, something splattered all over social media, so it must be true, right? That's how that works, right? If something's on social media, it's got to be fact, right? But that's one of the things that the Ethics Commission protects against, and it all comes back to education.
It all comes back to education. So when we talk about the mission of the Ethics Commission, it is to increase transparency. Right? It all comes down to increasing transparency. So we are providing more data, more disclosures, having meeting notices filed, those sorts of things. But then, so we provide an avenue for that, but it also requires participation from the voters, from the public citizens, to be able to go and say, yep, I'm going to use that information that they're providing. So I always like to say that ethics commissions alone don't create an ethical government. It is the relationship between ethics commissions, their public officials, and the citizens, and the media. The media plays a portion in that too.
Very
right?
large role.
That they all have to come together. And so as we talk about education, it is just as important for us to educate the public, the North Dakota citizen, about what your role is, what our mission is, what we are here to help with, and what your role is, what you can do, what you should look out for, what aren't concerns, what are concerns, the do's and the don'ts, right? Because they play that crucial, if you talk about a stool, right, it's the third leg that you gotta have that interaction. And so we reach out to, and we want to make sure that we provide education to the public as well as to our elected officials. So we're doing that next week.
You got an event coming up.
So we got an event coming up. So on December 9th, we are at the Heritage Center at 6 p.m. And we have an event that is open to all North Dakota residents. There's no registration. It's free. And really, we are going to talk about the basics. We're going to talk about ethics basics, ethics commission basics. What are the rules? What are the do's? What are the don'ts as we go into legislative session? If you are involved in the legislature, meaning that you're an observer, you're testifying, you are providing support, you're working with a nonprofit, what do you need to know going in?
Or like in a lot of cases, municipalities are going there to deal with, which aren't really under your purvey, but they're having interaction with elected officials. So it's important that they know the rules as well. I can imagine lobbyists should probably know.
Yep. Yes.
So you work independently with incoming legislators and the legislators that are coming in. Do you work with the lobbyists too, going, hey, here's all the rules?
Yep. So we actually break our education out into stakeholders. Who is the stakeholder that we're trying to reach at that time? So we've already met with the lobbyists. We had an event for them. We have a follow-up event coming up for them in early January. This week we've been focusing on legislators. In a few weeks, we're going to be focusing on those new cabinet members that are coming in, right? We're going to have new cabinet members coming in. We're going to have new elected officials coming in that are not members of the legislature. And then our fourth stakeholder group is the public, right? So we have those kind of education that has been tailored specifically to those particular groups of people.
And I can imagine it's very important that the media knows all this as well. So does the media qualify as the stakeholder group with the public?
With the public. We usually include them with the public. Okay. Yeah, we usually do. But you are right, because information can even get lost in media.
Well,
right?
And a lot of times, if somebody thinks there's something going on, they'll call a media individual.
Will call media.
I get phone calls all the time. It's like for a lot of people, that's their first point of contact.
It can be, yeah. So informing the media about what is and what isn't a violation, or what do you need to watch out for, when to come ask questions, those sorts of things, that is included with that public kind of information. But yeah, media plays a really big role.
Well, and as being part of the media sometimes, what's more important is knowing the right questions to ask. So if you're educated, you're going to know the right questions to ask. You are going to know the right questions to ask. That's the important part a lot of times when it comes to ethics.
It is.
So this event coming up at the Heritage Center, 6 p.m. on Monday, 12/9/24, public education session for the public, for the media, for anybody who is interested. This is an open forum. Come and learn about ethics in North Dakota and what the Ethics Commission does and what the process is and what a violation is. What else are people going to find out at this meeting?
So really, we're gonna talk about what role you play as a citizen, right? That we can't be successful in having an ethical and transparent government without you, and you play a crucial role. And by you, I mean all all citizens of North Dakota.
If you live in North Dakota, you play a role.
You do. Yes, absolutely.
So as far as the evening, kind of block off, 2-3 hours?
Oh gosh, no, we're going to have you in and out of there.
5 hours?
Yeah. No, I'd like to eat dinner at some point. So it's from 6 to 7. That is when we have our kind of programmed time. And then we also have a little time for question and answer. If you have questions, we'll be there, have general information available afterwards.
So no cost to sign up?
No cost to sign up. It's open to the public.
If people want to reach out or find out more information, your website?
Yes.
Where do people go?
So people can go to ethicscommission.nd.gov. The website that we have is full of information. So we have information on all of our upcoming educational sessions, all of our educational resources, all of our charts are there. If you have a question, you can submit a question online. You can submit basically any communication that goes through the website comes to us. And then all of our phone numbers, including the complaint hotline, is all listed on the website.
So once again, the website?
ethicscommission.nd.gov.
And public education session up at the Heritage Center Monday night, 6 p.m., 12/9/24.
Yeah.
Block off an hour, hour and a half.
Block off an hour and come be ethical.
Yeah, and learn. I mean, it's
yep.
all about the education piece. Rebecca, thanks for coming in today.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Steve.
A lot going on with the Ethics Commission, a lot of things that people should know, whether you're an elected official, whether you're a representative, whether you're working in government, whether you're a voter. It doesn't matter. You should probably know all this information. If you're in the media, invite people in the media to show up to this as well. But it's going to be a great event at the Heritage Center to learn all about what the Ethics Commission does and really about that scope of ethics in North Dakota as we're heading into a new session. This is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
1270. Welcome back to Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270, you're tuned to Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Bakken along with Bradley Ock, General Manager at Runnings, the Cool Runnings, 701 South Washington in Bismarck. And actually, we're just going to call you the hat guy now because it's the season. And, you know, it's funny because when you do the Black Friday sale, how do you find Brad? Well, he's that really tall guy that's really taller because you got the chimney hat going.
Got the chimney hat with Santa sticking out.
Always easy to find you. Now, you are the Christmas hat guy.
Well, I like it because
you're the seasonal hat guy.
Yeah, you know, well, you got to go from Thanksgiving to Christmas. I don't have to do my hair.
Oh, good call.
Because I have all the different hats. I probably have like 7, 8 different hats sitting behind my desk. So I can choose what I want.
You got a turkey hat?
I don't.
Oh,
I don't. Thanksgiving kicks off with my big chimney with Santa stuck in it.
See, I see people running with turkey hats at the turkey trot, but you need to get one of those.
Because then I could probably wear it the week of.
Mm-hmm.
I like it.
Whole week.
I could do that.
Yeah. So speaking of winter and Frosty, I just watched Frosty on TV the other day. But Frosty vanilla root beer. Oh my gosh. I have not had a Frosty brand anything for a long time, and I forgot about it.
Yeah, well, I was looking through the cooler, and I was like, God, what hasn't he tried yet? And then we have a whole row of root beers. It's like, I'm pretty sure he likes root beers and cream sodas. So no cream soda in there, but there's like vanilla root beer. There we go.
It's like, I'm going to come pick up a couple of these. And
then I got black cherry. Because black cherry fits.
Ooh, that looks good, too.
It does.
But I was thinking root beer floats.
Oh, yep.
Vanilla root beer floats. Oh, goodness. There's a few of these left in the cooler, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. There's some over there.
I'll be in. Speaking of, and then you brought the golden caramel corn nuggets.
Yeah, so I haven't had this. So
they are
a couple of years ago, we used to have this ginormous bag of caramel corn things, and they kind of disappeared, and they stopped making them. And these came out this year. And everyone's like, oh, my gosh, these are so good. I've never had them. So I'm like, yeah.
I don't think I've had those. I've had they're
pretty good.
They're kind of like corn pops, but for snacking, not for cereal. And I have not had those. I've had the cinnamon ones. Mm-hmm. There's a cinnamon one, but that's, something else I want in the flyer this week, too. Somebody wants to get me this for Christmas. Sutton Home Cow Print Kids Recliner, and I think I could make it work.
You can.
It's so cool.
They're so small. They're adorable. They're tiny. When you go into the store, you'll see the big Schleck fixture with the big black Angus on there. Right behind that is a little stack out of these adorable little chairs. And
maybe I need 2 of them.
We usually sell them in pairs of 2.
Okay, one for each cheek.
Yeah. Yeah, and they were a big Black Friday item. We got so many of them in, but man, they blew out the door, and but they are adorable. Our kids had them when they were little. Not that print, but they had little velvety type looking ones. Yeah,
really cool.
But the kids love them. They kick back and recline. So it's like a real little recliner for them, and they're awesome. You'll have to come check them out.
Okay, so we are still in DeWalt, Milwaukee, tool modes, and there's nothing better under the Christmas tree if you're doing some Christmas shopping for anybody to grab those items. And they are still on sale. You've got some great deals going on in DeWalt and Milwaukee right now.
Yeah, so DeWalt's still running their big Christmas sale.
The big one.
It was huge. Black Friday, like just thinking back to like a week and a half ago.
I was there. I saw people with carts of DeWalt stuff.
Well, we had 3 people staffed. They just got stuck in tools helping people because it's just a great deal. And we ran out of one battery for this one tool, so we subbed something else in for them. Like, we're not going to let you leave without that free item. So we're out of the big toolbox right now, so we're giving people the choice. Do you want this toolbox? It's $10 more. Do you want that part of a toolbox? It was even a little less. Like, do you want an extra battery? Like, what do you want? Like, here's our options. Let's go see what we got. And it just made it go that much better because people are like, oh, man, I want that. And then, yeah, it's a good time.
Anyway, this, it was crazy watching people fill up cartfuls of DeWalt stuff. As far as winter clothing, you guys have got some great deals going on.
Yep.
Line pants, which I was out this morning. That wind a little blustery, stopping the wind and staying warm. And I'm a glove kind of connoisseur, so I'm going to be stopping in to pick up a new pair of gloves for shoveling.
Yeah, and if you're work gloves, leather gloves, we do have the Wells Lamont men's leather insulated glove right now. That's one of our manager specials. I think it's $9.99, normally $19. Right up front, you walk through the door, it's in the dump bin, and they sent just a ton of those for this event to take care of that.
I saw that. I'll be in.
Yeah.
In fact, you guys actually, sporting goods wise, you guys overstocked on gun safes for Black Friday, and I could not believe how many you guys had, and I watched safe after safe after safe go out the door. If you missed out on the Black Friday deal, you guys stocked up so well, you still have some left.
Yeah, and they extended that.
And they extended the sale.
So we had 3 or 4 items that we just identified as where this year, where they went right was that we have full pallet drops. There's a dog toy, we thought would really sell great, but we got an entire pallet of it. Wow. Are you going to sell 300 of them? There was the hopes, but we ended up.
Could go through them.
So they just extended that discount out through the end of Christmas. So they pulled some of those. They identified some deals that they felt like we had too many left of. They just rolled it back to the Black Friday price.
So if you missed out on some of the safe sales, holy crap. And then, of course, I was talking to Kev when I was there because I was looking at a pistol that you had. And then now there's a really good one on sale. Actually, it's the most popular selling. It's the little Springfield Hellcat. That is such a cool gun. But that's on sale right now, and that's rarely on sale because it's such a big seller. It's just, there's deals everywhere.
Yeah, and the buyers they did a great job this year. And Home of Economy, the addition of Home of Economy too, they've identified new best-selling products that they're going to pull over. So our guy who does barbecuing and grilling reviewed their entire line of seasonings and sauces, and he's adding, it was like 4 to 8 feet of seasonings and spices that are best sellers through Home of Economy that he's going to bring over to us. So as we're going through and setting these stores, like, oh, wow, this got converted over to us now. We're going to carry this. So it's really neat to see them digging into what's sold well at Home of Economy and bringing it over to our side.
Actually, I have a friend a product line that Home of Economy carried in the barbecue sauce and seasoning world, and they couldn't get it anymore. He wound up buying the company because he loved the seasoning that much. Just to get it back in. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, well, and then Grafton, the Grafton Home of Economy store, all the new products, they have room for the old stuff. They sent 18 pallets over to us, and we've been processing that.
That's the other cool thing is you guys have an entire aisle
dedicated, both sides and drops in front.
Home of Economy clearance stuff.
Half off.
Yeah, half off. Crazy prices.
So some of that stuff is up to 75-80% off, and we just keep filling it. Yeah, we just keep filling it in with new product as we get it.
It's kind of like going to that, I forget that store that's got the Amazon where you buy the pallet. You're kind of like,
is that Ugly Box?
Yeah, you open up the pallet and go, oh, what did I buy? What's in here? And you guys just put it out on the shelf. It's kind of cool.
It's been a lot of fun.
Christmas every day.
It's been dangerous for associates because, we see some of that stuff. We're like, oh, that's only $12.
Yeah, I need to buy that. Your garage isn't big enough.
I don't need another one, but I'm going to get it.
Your garage isn't big enough.
Well, if you need spray paint, we got some of their spray paint. We marked it from $12 to $2 a can.
Yeah, it was crazy.
We got a couple hundred cans. Dickinson got a couple hundred cans. We called each other like, let's just go to $2. I think cost was $6 something a piece, so we're losing money on it. But it's one of those things where. Whatever. It's a great
check out
deal.
That aisle.
Come
I
get
guarantee you're going to find something in there, and then check it out regularly. The Cool Running Store, 701 South Washington in Bismarck. This is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Talk of the Town, weekday mornings starting at 9 on Super Talk 1270 and the free Super Talk 1270 mobile app.